Here are 5 reasons why 4 strokes are better at the motocross.
2 strokes.
4 strokes are better.
2 strokes.
No, 4 strokes
2
are
strokes.
better. 4 strokes.
2 strokes. Reaction, that was boom. Oh, dang. Swole. That's not a good thing. You don't want to be swole.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Ride with the Knights YouTube channel. Today, another 2-stroke versus 4-stroke video. We have a 2023 KTM 250 XC TBI versus the 2021 Gas MC 250F. Today, we're riding the motocross track, doing a lap time battle, and really just trying to find out what we can learn about these bikes and pretty much decide which bike's gonna be better for you. Josh and I combined have over 40 years of riding and racing. Josh has spent majority of his time riding and racing on 2-strokes. I've actually spent more time on the 4-strokes. I haven't ridden a 2-stroke that often on a motocross track specifically, so I'm really curious to see if I can even hang on to the thing. The way this will be structured is we're gonna do a lap time comparison. We have Josh's Lit Pro device, so we got some super accurate lap times, and it's really just gonna be Josh versus himself and me versus myself. We're gonna do 2 laps on each bike, and we just wanna see if there's any commonalities between us, if we're both fast on one bike or the other, if there's just certain spots on the track that we're both excelling on one bike or the other. As with all dirt bikes, there's just simply pros and cons between these two. The 2-stroke's lightweight, it's hard to find the power band. The 4-stroke's a little heavier, but can be stable. So we're just gonna be comparing the differences between these bikes on the motocross track and using the data from the Lit Pro to see what we can learn, make the best decision for ourselves. One last thing to even the playing field, we've got the exact same tires front and rear on both bikes, the Tusk MXT 35s from Rocky Mountain. If you're interested in supporting our channel, supporting us, help us make videos, use our link in the description. Shop Rocky Mountain ATV MC for your next set of gear. We got the MSR NXT gear, tires, bunch of hard protective parts. Support the channel and use the link. Now let's go riding. Welcome back, everybody. We're in the garage now. We just got all cleaned up after doing our motos. It's hot out there today, but the track was good. We had a lot of fun. We're gonna kick it off talking a little bit about just kind of our general conclusion before we dive into the results. With the Lit Pro device, we have a lot of different analytics that we can look at, but what was your experience, Kobee, just doing, you spent a lot of time on the 4-stroke and jumping on the 2-stroke. How did that go? So I was gonna preface the whole thing with, this is my personal bike. I ride it 2 to 3 times a week out at the track. Obviously, I'm very comfortable on it. The controls are where I want them. The suspension's tuned for me. So that is something I wanted to preface this whole conclusion with. Something I went into this comparison knowing that I can count on one hand how many times I've ridden a 2-stroke on a motocross track. I was actually really impressed with how quickly I fell into a groove. I did 2 warm-up laps, and after that, I felt like I could be competitive against the lap times that I knew I could put down on my personal bike. I will admit I got some intense arm pump, probably the most intense arm pump, Josh was my witness, that I've had in a couple years. That could be because of a lot of different things. That could be the controls are in different spots, but I really do think it was just the difference in how the bike was reacting as far as power, where it was.
it just took some major adjustments. I am very, very used to that linear power that 4-strokes provide, especially on a moto track. Coming off of jump faces, I just felt like at first that I might blow over some berms and do all this crazy crap. I was riding very, very tight and not in the right areas. I wasn't squeezing, I wasn't flowing as much. I'd say reason being was more so I had to put so much focus on making sure that I was getting traction and using the engine properly. It's gonna take anybody to make a transition from one bike to the other, from 2-stroke to 4-stroke or vice versa. It's gonna take them a lot of time to get totally comfortable. So 2 laps, 4 laps even, is not
a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time.
When it comes to any 2-stroke versus 4-stroke comparison, or really just any displacement motorcycle to any other motorcycle, there's really just pros and cons. Motorcycles, different models do some things well, and there's some things you just take a little bit of getting used to. And that's kind of what my general experience is each time I do a comparison like this. Today on the motocross track, it was no different. I was experiencing a lot of the really fun factor things that I enjoy so much about the 2-strokes, and a lot of the competitive features that I enjoy about the 4-strokes. I will admit though that being a 250F, it does require more shifting than you expect. When the power's on, it's really smooth everywhere, but it can fall off quickly, so I have to be sharp with my shifting on the 250F.
With these being the same displacement, they're both 250s. It's a completely different comparison as a 250 2-stroke versus a 450. You do have to do a lot of the similar things on this 250F. You have to shift more, you have to clutch more to get that power. With that being said, now let's dive into some of the data that we got from the Lit Pro and dive into our lap times.
So the first thing we're gonna look at with results is our lap times. Kobee went out on session number 1 riding the 2-stroke, and on the second session, he was on the 4-stroke. And if we take a look at his lap times, you'll notice that he was actually faster on his 4-stroke, which is his own bike. He had a little bit bigger of a gap in between his lap times than myself. He was about 2 to 4 seconds a lap faster. If we take a look at my times, you'll notice that I was a little bit closer. I did in fact put my fastest lap together on the 2-stroke. However, it was only about half a second faster than my lap time on the 4-stroke. I felt like this was a pretty fair comparison because I just went right out, did my session on the 2-stroke, jumped right over to the 4-stroke, and did my session on the 4-stroke. I will admit though, likely if I were to spend a little bit more time on both of these bikes, in fact, I have in the last couple of weeks, I typically put faster lap times on the 4-stroke and feel a little bit better. But today's data doesn't lie. Fastest lap in today's session came from the 2-stroke.
So for me, taking a little deeper dive into some of the stats from the lap times, there was 2 standout things for me. Firstly, I would have almost bet you money that I would have had a higher top speed on the 2-stroke. It's a faster bike overall, but I didn't reach it. I actually still maintained a higher top speed on the 250. Again, I would credit that to a comfort thing. I think it could be that it's more stable. It could be that it's my bike, again, suspension, for a lot of reasons, but I was surprised that I actually hit a higher top speed on the fastest part of the track on the smaller bike. And then the other standout thing was the minimum speed. Minimum speed meaning the slowest that I went on any of my lap times. I actually had a higher minimum speed on the 4-stroke than the 2-stroke, meaning that I was carrying more speed on the 4-stroke, which it's pretty simple. The faster you're going with your minimum speed means that overall, yes, you are going to have faster lap times. Although it was close, in moto, that makes quite the difference.
Okay, back to me.
Back to you.
All right, now let's take a look at some of the stats from my own sessions. You'll notice that the difference between lap times is a lot tighter. I was about 0.59 seconds faster on the 2-stroke, and the difference in Kobee's times was a little bit bigger, between about 2 to 4 seconds on his. So I was a little bit closer between these 2 bikes. I had 2 kind of standout observations. The first one was on my fastest lap time on the 2-stroke, I was actually behind for most of the lap. You'll notice as we look at this Lit Pro data, the majority of the lap, at least 3/4 of the lap, I was ahead on the 4-stroke, and then in the last couple corners, I actually made up some time on the 2-stroke and got ahead. So that may be an indicator that maybe in some of those mid sections of the track, I might be a little faster on the 4-stroke, or maybe in general, I might be carrying a little bit more speed, and it just happened that on that lap, I was fast on the 2-stroke. The second really cool observation that I had was actually, if we take a look at this corner 3, we can do a cool breakdown. So if we compare one of my fast laps on the 2-stroke versus 4-stroke, you'll notice that my entry speed on the 2-stroke is actually faster, 1.7 miles per hour quicker. If we take a look at the apex of the turn, about halfway through the turn, same thing, I'm actually carrying more speed on the 2-stroke, and then if we go over to the exit, kind of swings on us, and I actually exited the turn 0.2 seconds faster on the 4-stroke, so I was actually slower, which was a really interesting observation for myself because you'd think that with faster entry speed and faster roll speed in the middle that I was actually going to be faster on this bike. And there's so many different variables that it's really hard to extract a lot of information from really specific things like this. But one of the lessons that we could learn is something that we often teach inside our online riding course, and that is that disruptions and different things inside the turn are actually going to have some consequences and slow you down later. You're getting these delayed results. And so one of the things we teach all the time is to brake early, gas early. So that may have been something that I did on the 4-stroke where I slowed down a little earlier and then actually got on the gas earlier, which produced a faster overall corner speed. I may have failed to do that on the 2-stroke.
So with all that being said, there are hundreds of little details that we could dive into that are super interesting to help us improve riding, whether it's on the 2-stroke or on the 4-stroke. But we aren't oblivious to the fact that this was not a perfect comparison. We spent minimal amount of laps on each bike. I haven't ridden a 2-stroke in years, but there are still some benefits to diving deeper into this data.
Doing really simple tests like what we just did today really helps me find these little areas where I can improve on the motorcycle. And it's interesting. It's not totally inclusive. There's a lot of other motorcycles out there, but it's fun to do little tests like this. And I really like to look at the technique. If you guys are interested in improving your off-road riding technique and learning more about stuff like this, head over to ridewiththeknights.com. There we have hundreds of different training videos on all sorts of different types of subjects. So if you're interested in enjoying motorcycles more and learning some technique and some skills, head over to ridewiththeknights.com in the description below. Thanks guys for watching. This was 2-stroke versus 4-stroke 250 motocross edition. We're gonna do a whole bunch more of these videos in the future with 450s and off-road trail riding content, all sorts of cool stuff. If you like this type of stuff, like and subscribe, and as always, we'll see you guys out on the trails.